What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday, April 22nd. TK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up on your smart devices. Got the app, take it on the go, wherever you're at in this wonderful world of ours. Also, video stream up and rolling Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Hopefully, all had a fantastic weekend, and boy, do we got a lot of things to catch up on here this morning. So, what do we got on the game plan here? Bucks picking up a game one victory last night against the Indiana Pacers, 109 to a 94. It was game time, at least in the first half. It was game time. 35 points for Damian Lillard. We knew he was gonna have to step up, and that's a reason that's the reason why you go out and acquire a guy like Damian Lillard for his first half performance, just on fire. The Pacers trying to take him completely out of the game, double teaming him and such. But then you had the likes of Chris Middleton kind of stepping up in the second half. There, he finished with 23 points and 10 rebounds. You had Bobby Portis with 15, Lopez adding 11. Patrick Beverly may not show a lot on the stat sheet in terms of points, but the man had 8 assists and 7 rebounds, was diving all over the courts and such. So Bucks coming out, a lot of energy. I mean, that Fiserv Forum crowd looked like it was just a rocket. And I know Damian Lillard said after the game too, he's never really seen an environment like that or never really experienced it, especially right at the beginning before tip-off there. But Bucks picking up a game one victory last night. And defensively, I mean, they held the highest scoring team in the league to under 100 points, and they held them to 21.1% from the three-point line. Just 8 of 38 the Pacers were last night. Pascal Siakam had himself a night, though. I mean, he kind of gets overshadowed there. He had 36 points, 13 rebounds. Was kind of the one player that the Bucks weren't quite able to figure out how to slow down last night. But hey, picking up a big win for Game One. No Giannis in the game, as we all know, but nonetheless, big win without him. So Bucks will be back at it coming up tomorrow night, and then Saturday you had the T-Wolves also picking up a victory, a big victory over the Phoenix Suns. Anthony Edwards having himself a game. I mean, it was all the home teams picking up wins, right? Picking up wins in the opening, I should say opening, like first round, play-ins and such. So, Boston picked up a win, Clippers picked up a win, OKC picked up a win, squeaking out the Pelicans last night by 94 to 92. So we'll talk some hoops as we recap a game one victory for the Bucks last night. And the Brewers taking out some more cleaning supplies, sweeping the Cardinals. Get the brooms out, sweeping the Cardinals over the weekend. Going back to Friday, X ratings affair, went 10, but the Brewers picking up a 2-1 victory. Then the Bats coming alive on Saturday, 12 runs, 12-5 victory over the Cardinals. And then yesterday, shutting them down, shutting them out, 2-0 victory for the Brewers. Brewers right now holding on to a 2-game lead in the division over the Chicago Cubs, and they Brewers begin a 4-game stretch with the Pirates now, starting tonight before they return home to take on some American League East teams, Yankees this weekend and Tampa Bay right after that. But nonetheless, Brewers, what a weekend for them. You had Blake Perkins making some plays. I mean, sweet grab yesterday, robbing that homer in center field. Contreras continuing his great start to the season, 354, leading the team in average, leading the team in runs, 18, leading the team in RBIs. Bryce Terang's up to double-digit steals already. He's got 10 steals so far on the season here. Pat Murphy, 14 wins as manager. Brewers 14-6 right now. Was it 14-6 so far on the season? Yeah. So Pat Murphy, 14 games. He's got right now. Blake Perkins, man, though. I mean, 354. He's got a 968 OPS so far this season. He has stepped up big time with some of the injuries and taken the most of his opportunities out there. There's no doubt about it. Blake Perkins, and there's we'll get to this coming up in a little bit here, but Pat Murphy kind of even admitting he was a little bit wrong about Blake Perkins. Maybe wasn't necessarily the biggest Blake Perkins. I don't know if I want to say guy, but because I mean he's his manager and such. But he's grown. There's a good article by Todd Rosiak from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that says, once skeptical, Pat Murphy has grown to love Blake Perkins in his game. Quote, dead wrong about him. So we'll recap the series sweep over the Cardinals and take a look at this 4-game set against the Pittsburgh Pirates that begins tonight. So we got Brewers chat coming up here. Happy start to the NFL draft week. NFL draft first round begins Thursday. We're going to hear from Brian Gutekunst, Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst, later on this morning in his pre-draft presser. Don't expect to learn anything. At this point, don't expect to learn anything, at least in terms of the draft plan or whatever. I mean, that's just I don't know what to say to you if you're expecting or wanting to hear anything, because he's not going to tip his hand, obviously, a few days away from the draft. But if we're going to play a little game coming up here today. If you could ask a question, we do this once in a while, right? If you could ask a question, what would that question be to the Packers general manager, Brian Gutekunst, here later on this morning? Maybe I might as well tell you mine right now, but my question would be, how do they view Andre Dillard? Do they view him as a left tackle still, right tackle, guard? What's the plan for Andre Dillard? Because I don't think it's going to be left tackle. Maybe a swing tackle over there, a little backup, but I wouldn't say day one starter for sure. But if you got any other questions, you would go out and ask Goody. What would they be in his pre-draft press conference that he'll be chatting with the media a little bit later on this morning? Don't forget, with that first round coming up here a little bit later on, or a little bit later on this week, excuse me, you can head to our website at sportstalk1051.com and make your predictions on who you think will be the first pick for the Packers. Don't tell me that they're going to trade it. That's not what the question is. Even if they do trade it, eventually they're going to make a pick. So give me your prediction on who you think that first pick is going to be, whether it's later in the first round or higher in the first round or even in the second round. Give me a name. Give me a prediction. Head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and click on that fan cave tab and scroll at the bottom, and you'll see it over there. I'll tell you right now, the most popular prediction out there is Cooper DeJean from Iowa. So we'll throw a little football chats in here. It is a weekend hangover. So what was the highs? What was the lows from the weekend here? You can make your picks by hitting us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. The best and the worst, or the highs and the lows over there. So hit me up with your picks from this past weekend. All right, just this past weekend. What do you got? Maybe it's something with the Brewers or the Bucks, or maybe it's something has happened to you. I don't know. It's up to you. All right, it's up to you. So you can let us know. We'll do a little local sports roundup brought to you by Alwinson's Appliance Center coming up in the 8 o'clock hour too. So we'll catch up on the weekend of sports over there from the local side. So plenty to get to, right? We might as well just jump right into it here this morning. So Let's open up things on the leadoff. We got to chat a little Bucks with a big game one victory over the Pacers. We got to talk a little sweep for the Brewers over the Cardinals. Always feels good to sweep the Cardinals, right? Because it feels like it doesn't happen that often going up against the Cardinals. Doesn't feel that often um, to to sweep Cardinals, and I mean they've always been, at least for me, they've been the bugaboo team for me as a Brewers fan. But so anytime you can sweep the Cardinals is going to be a good day over there. But nonetheless, start to hit me up with those texts, okay? On that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Let's get things rolling here this morning. Coming up on the leadoff, we'll mix it up, talk a little Bucks, talk a little Brewers, then we'll get to a little football talk a little bit later on here, as it is NFL Draft Week officially begins today. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Are you hitting the road a lot lately, or maybe you're getting ready to? You better make sure your vehicle is ready to put on all those miles, which means it's a good idea to get some new tires and get an oil change to help your vehicle perform at its best this traveling season. Where do you go, though? And that's simple. ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. Not only does ASAP Used Auto Parts have high quality used auto parts to help your budget, but they are also your go-to place when it comes to oil changes and new tires. So make sure your vehicle is ready to hit the road for another traveling season. Set up your appointment with ASAP Used Auto Parts today and have a safe and memorable traveling season this summer, spring, summer. All right. Somebody had asked, do I have my mock ready? I did finish last night my Packers 7 round mock draft. Um, Over halfway done with my first round mock draft for the entire league there. So, think what I'll do is I might record it today. Usually I do it reveal it on Thursday's show, but I might record it today and then upload it as a podcast episode maybe later on today, if anybody cares about that. So, um maybe I'll do that. We'll see how the day kind of flows out here. But I did finish up my Packers 7 round last night, and I'm over halfway done with the first round mock draft over there too. So yeah, I think we could do that today. I think we could do that today. So don't ask me who I picked. You got to listen. All right, that's the dealio. That's how it works. Y'all should know that by now. So let's get things going here this morning, though. Let's talk. Let's give some cred to the Bucks for tonight. All right, let's give them the honors this morning. The honors to lead off the program because face it, they weren't fans into this game, and from a lot of Bucks fans or from even national people out there, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence whether this Bucks team could go win this series. Now it's just one game. I don't know if it necessarily changed the opinions of many. I know it didn't really change the opinion of one Mr. Sir Charles Barkley yesterday or last night, I should say. But I had this weird feeling like I could see the Bucks coming in, game one at home, kind of playing with the underdog role, which is weird to say, them being a 3 seed and such. But I could kind of see them be like, I could see them like just jumping out hot right away, jumping out to an early lead and taking game one. And it took a little bit. You could tell both these teams, I don't know if it was just a little rust from having some extra days off or whether it was just some nerves or that, but it just felt like, okay, getting some missed shots here. It was kind of a little rusty there, but it ended up working out in game time. I mean, again, this is why you make a trade for Damian Lillard, for a guy like Damian Lillard. When your top dude is out, Giannis, when he's out and he's missing some time, you next guy, that guy who can create his own, that guy who can kind of go out there and lead the team, put him on his shoulders, at least for the first half out there, right? Dame did that last night. 11 of 24 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3, 6 rebounds, 35 points, all those points coming in the first half. You can tell there was definitely uh, a change or a defensive change from the Pacers, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna for," and you could say, "Well, why didn't they before?" And I would agree with that. I take Dame out, you double team him, and you try to force everybody else from this Bucks team to beat you, and I think that's probably what Indiana's gonna do to begin game 2. It's like, "All right, we're just going to double team him, we're gonna trap him as many times as soon as he gets the ball, whether it's an inbound, we're gonna double team him right away and force everybody else on this Bucks team to be the offense, really, to be the offensive go-to person." Don't know, I mean, Dame sometimes when he's just on and he's shooting from 35 feet or whatever it is deep behind the arc, it's sometimes it's just like it's kinda almost like Caitlin Clark, I'm not comparing the 2, but it's like, you know, kinda shrug your shoulders at that point. But you could tell there was definitely a change in, philosophy, if you will, or a game plan, against Dame there. But credit to the other guys like Chris Middleton, who finished the game with 23 points, 10 rebounds, also 4 dimes out there. These are the 2, Dame and Middleton. These are the 2 guys that have to go out there and lead this ball club until Giannis is back on that court. And even when Giannis is back on that court, we'll see how close to 100% he could be. But he had guys hitting some big shots. Patrick Beverley hit a big 3, was it in the second half there? Beasley hitting a couple of big threes, Portis making a couple big plays. You had those guys, especially in the second half, making some shots, and when it looked like Indiana was, all right, making it a game and maybe getting a little momentum, Bucks go out there, make a couple big shots. Patrick Beverley making some plays, whether it's dishing it. He finished with 8 assists there, diving on the floor. That one play was in the fourth quarter, diving on the floor and finding Beasley in the corner for a quick 3 there. I mean, Beverly's that guy. He finished the game with a plus 17, plus or minus, plus 17 there. So he's that guy. He's not going to give you a ton of offensive production, but he can affect the game in so many different ways. And I think you kind of saw that last night with this Bucks team. The question is now, can the Bucks in game 2 coming up tomorrow kind of repeat what they did in game 1, bring that energy, especially on the defensive side. Pascal Siakam had himself a game, and they're going to have to figure out, okay, how do we try to slow down that all-star? Out target that 17. They did a really good job. The Bucks did a really good job of limiting Tyrese Halliburton. He finished with just 9 points, still had 8 assists and 7 rebounds there. So, I mean, he was close to a triple-double, but they didn't let Tyrese Halliburton kinda go off. And I thought for the most part, they did a good job of not allowing Indiana to consistently get into transition offense. We know the Pacers, they wanna run up and down. They wanna score quickly, light up the scoreboard, get up and down that court quickly, and I mean, it wasn't perfect, there was a few plays, but for the most part, I thought the Bucks did a pretty darn good job. I mean, you're holding the Pacers to just 94 points, under 100 points, the highest scoring team in the NBA this past year or this season. I mean, it helps with the Pacers going 8 of 38 from 3. There's no doubt about that. That helps out a little bit, but I also think you gotta give some credit to the defensive play and the effort from the Bucks last night. And depending on whether you're listening on the radio or whether you were watching it on the tube and such, Grant Hill last night was kinda talking about, he mentioned it a few times, and I think it was Ian Eagle kinda mentioned it a few times too. This Bucks team, whenever they were talking to them and Doc Rivers, they just mentioned about just how super confident they were heading into this game and heading into the series, even without Giannis, and considering how they finished the season, as Grant noted and a lot of others noted, you know, since Doc Rivers was hired, the team finished under 500, right? It was an under 500 record. So why would there be a lot of stuff to be confident about? Well, maybe this is just a team that, it's the oldest team in the league based off average age, veteran heavy. They know what they know it's all about the postseason, and that's kinda where they've had their eye on it. I use the example once in a while, but I think it kinda fits. It's like those Spurs teams with Duncan and Ginobili and Tony Parker. Veteran teams, they just kind of, I don't wanna say coasted through the regular season because obviously you gotta perform fairly well in the postseason to or in the regular season to get into the postseason, but they had bigger goals than just finishing for a 1 seed. It was postseason time. It was like they were using the regular season to tune up for the postseason, if you will. Now, I don't know if this Bucks team is gonna be like that, if they're gonna have a postseason like those Spurs teams did, where maybe they didn't finish as the top team in the West, but they kinda had that extra gear. They kind of flipped the switch when it came to the postseason. We'll see if the Bucks can do that. But nonetheless, it was an impressive victory, I thought, last night for this Bucks team. I just hope that they can continue because I wouldn't expect Giannis. The more the Bucks too, if the Bucks win game 2, I think they kinda push the return of Giannis. Again, it's very kind of up in the air. Haven't really seen a definitive timeline, and a lot of it's just gonna be dependent on, whenever he heals and starts to feel better and that calf starts to feel over there. But the more the Bucks can win without him, the more that they can kinda delay his return and make sure he's as close to 100% as possible. But the big question for me now is gonna be game 2 tomorrow night. Can this Bucks team come out with that same type of energy to begin the game? Can they continue to be that aggressive both on the offensive side and the defensive side? And I think they've got to be prepared now, and I'm sure they will be, but they have got to be prepared for a Pacers team that's gonna come out and say, "We're just gonna try to completely take out Dame time. We're gonna double him every time. We're gonna frustrate him. We're gonna try to trap him. We're gonna pick him up full court, half court, gonna make things super difficult on him, and we're gonna try to force you, Milwaukee Bucks, to beat us. Gonna force Chris Middleton to beat us, Bobby Portis to beat us, Brook Lopez. We're gonna take your number 1 offensive threat out of this." Pacers, points-wise, opponents' points, bottom 4 in the league in the regular season. But if they dedicate a lot of their defensive energy to just one guy, without Giannis, they could focus on one offensive guy for this Bucks team like they did in the second half against Dame. I would expect the Pacers to do this coming up in game 2, and I think Doc Rivers and the Bucks know this too. So, that puts even more pressure on a guy like Middleton to be maybe a go-to offensive dude. I mean, when Middleton's offensive game is on and he's, kinda doing a little fadeaways like he did last night, it's pretty. Let's be real, it's pretty. There was a couple of those shots last night that made Dame and Giannis even stand up from the bench. When he's kinda backing down the defender and he does a quick turnaround, little fadeaway mid-range. It's pretty when it goes in. That's his game. If he can get those matchups, get the ball to Chris Middleton. But if he can consistently knock those down and try to force more attention his way to open up things for a guy like Damian Lillard, well, then it's a beautiful thing. But other guys like Bobby Portis, are we gonna get a Bobby Portis game where he's just on, in fuego, on fire? Dude had a double-double yesterday. What kind of offensive production from Brook Lopez? So, Bucks have to be prepared for the the plan from the Pacers to just completely try to take Damian Lillard out of game 2 and force everybody else to beat them. That puts more pressure on Middleton. That puts more pressure on guys like Bobby Portis. Where is that offense gonna come from if it's not from Damian Lillard? Bucks, I mean, they put up 69 points in that first half, 35 of them coming from Dame, okay? In the second half alone, Bucks just put up 40, 14 in the third. So they're gonna have to make sure to find that other offensive gear coming up against the Pacers and continue to play at a high defensive level too. I think you gotta give credit to the defensive play from the Bucks last night. All right, let's switch over here a little bit to some Brewers chat. Brewers picking up a series sweep over the Cardinals, going back to the extra innings game on Friday night where they went to 10 innings. Brewers picking up a win 2-1. Then the Bats coming alive on Saturday, 12-5 victory. DL Hall not having some great stuff on Saturday's game, but thanks to the offense, Reese Hoskins opening up with a 2-run shot over there. Jackson Cheerio also homering too. But DL Hall getting sent to the injured list. He apparently tweaked his knee in that game on Saturday, but also his velocity was down too. And I want to get to a couple of Pat Murphy comments that he said about DL Hall, and it's just again, I'm going to talk a little bit about Pat Murphy coming up here in a second, so I'll hold off on that. But DL Hall getting sent down to the injured list here, and then yesterday the Brewers picking up a 2-0 victory. And Colin Ray, 5 innings, gets the no decision, but he went 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 Ks, 3 walks, no earned runs. Hudson going out there in his hometown, picking up his first career win in front of a lot of friends and family. 2 1/3, striking out 4, not giving up a hit. Blake Perkins making that sweet catch in the outfield center field, robbing a home run. I mean, defense, some timely hitting, and some bats coming alive on Saturday for the Crew. Just another impressive series for the Brewers, right? Um, I mean, we can look at Contreras. Contreras continues to have an amazing start. I mean, you're looking at the numbers. I know he went hitless yesterday, but you look at the numbers he's putting up this so far, especially at the catching position. Still hitting 354. OPS is a 987. He's got 4 dingers. He's leading the team in home or in RBIs with 20. Leading the team in runs, 18. I mean, the guy is having a fantastic. I don't know how else we can say it. He's having a fantastic start to the season and just continues to impress and get better and better and better. And then you got Blake Perkins, who is making the most of his opportunity right now. The way he's playing, I don't care who gets healthier or not. You keep the man out there defensively and even offensively. Making that catch in center yesterday. Right now, he's hitting 354, OPS of a 968. He's got a couple of home runs in there too. 17 hits and 48 at bats. Pat Murphy. This was from Todd Rosiak from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. And this is where I appreciate Pat Murphy. And I know it's not a big thing as a coach, general manager, whatever. It's everybody's different. Some will be a little bit more open to the media, maybe a little bit more personable, or we see their personalities a little bit more. When it comes to general managers or coaches, we only care about one thing. We want them to win as many games. That's their number one. Put together a roster to, hopefully win a lot of games. And if you're the coach or the manager, win a bunch of those games. But as fans, we like to see sometimes a coach or front office person, whatever, maybe have a little more personality, be a little bit more open. And we're getting that with Pat Murphy. I know we've kind of said that a few times, but there's just more and more that kind of comes out. That's like, oh, I don't know if a guy like Craig Counsell would say stuff like that or be as open, if you will. But Pat Murphy, I thought this was a really good piece. I'll just kind of read it a little bit here again. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Todd Rosiak. A baseball lifer, Pat Murphy has seen and experienced just about everything there is to experience in the game. But that doesn't mean he isn't still learning. Case in point, Blake Perkins. Murphy was entering his 8th year as bench coach of the Brewers in the spring of 2023 when he first laid eyes on Perkins, a career minor leaguer, to that point, who was well down the major league depth chart in the outfield. Murphy said, "You kind of categorize guys. It's very dangerous. As young coaches, we come through and we think we kind of get a feel for our type of player. And I saw Blake Perkins, and I'm like, he's not like into it. And I just didn't have the feel that he was going to be the type of guy I love. Dead wrong, and I love it. I love being wrong about it. This guy has emerged. I just love everything he does. It taught me the lesson is to be careful about making judgments." And another case in point too, where Murphy, he was talking about DL Hall, okay, after the start on Saturday. DL Hall's performance. And Pat Murphy was asked by Adam McCalvy from Brewers.com, if DL Hall essentially will continue to make starts. And Murphy said there's gotta be adjustments. We're not going to keep rolling out the ball, throw 3 and a third and say that's fine. It's not acceptable, but he is a young kid. And, I mean, he called a spade a spade. You know, we as fans can kinda see that, and once in a while, we joke around, it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's typical coach speak," or that's typical, manager speak, general manager speak. Like today, when we hear from Brian Gutekunst, we're gonna hear a lot of typical general manager speak. It's not gonna be very open on a lot of stuff. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a nugget here or there, but likely, probably not with the draft opening up in a few days. But as fans, I think, we appreciate it a little bit more when and I know probably the media members who cover the team appreciate it a little bit more when you hear a coach or a general manager who maybe gives you a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain, or he's a little bit more honest and a little bit more open. And I also and he's speaking the truth. Like I feel like sometimes as fans, when we hear this coach speak or this general manager speak, sometimes we feel like, okay, we're not dumb, when it's a very generic answer. And there's benefits to it, maybe you don't wanna call out somebody in the media or public, and you just kinda keep it behind closed doors or that, but, I mean, Murphy called it what it called it. It's not acceptable right now, with the performance of DL Hall. He called out himself, said, "I was dead wrong about this player." He easily could have said something like, "Yeah, when, he was coming up, kinda saw some things, but he had to continue to grow and get better, and now he's just taking advantage of his opportunity." Typical coach speak. Dude is going out there, and I think fans appreciate his openness and his honesty in a lot of areas, and honestly, maybe this team does too. Maybe the players do. I mean, Pat Murphy right now is 14-6. I feel like this is a team, this Brewers team that's playing off of the philosophy, the personality of their manager. 14-6, second most wins to begin, in the first 20 games. Was it, 14 wins in the first 20 games as manager, tied for the second most in Brewers history, or for Pat Murphy. We're seeing different things with this team. I know there's a little bit more of a youth movement, there's different players, and I'm not trying to draw comparisons to what Craig Counsell did over the years for the Brewers because it's just 20 games. But it is evident we are seeing some different things. We are seeing different philosophical ideas. Offense has changed up a little bit. Obviously, the pitching's different because you don't have a Corbin or a Brandon Woodruff out there to throw every 5 days. But we are seeing different things. We're seeing, okay, we know the pitching may not be as deep, especially in from the starting spot, and we don't have our all-star closer. So we're seeing adjustments. We're seeing a team that's like, "Okay, let's try to make it harder on the opposing team to put a little bit more stress. We're gonna steal some bases. We're gonna get on base more and be aggressive on those base paths." Because you know what? Last year, maybe we can get by being a little conservative on the offensive side because we're gonna play really good defense and have really good pitching. Let's try to make it a little bit easier on our pitching staff and maybe be a little bit more aggressive on the offensive side. I think we're seeing that with this Brewers team so far, and they're off to a fantastic start. 14-6, I don't think anybody expected this from the crew. I don't think anybody thought this. Now you got the Pirates coming up here, and I don't think the Brewers are going to sweep the Pirates, although that would be freaking awesome to see that if it were to be the case. But this is a young team that's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and I think they believe in their manager, and I think they believe in themselves. What did Pat Murphy say right at the close of spring training? Says something like, "Be careful with this team because they might just start to believe." And I think he nailed it on that right now. This is a team right now that's believing in themselves. It's only 20 games in. You got over 140 more of these to go for this. There's gonna be some downers, there's gonna be some low points, but, when you look at how the Brewers, Padres, they lost that series. They were on a 3-game losing streak, and then last Wednesday, it looked like maybe it was gonna be a 4-game losing streak. when they were being no hit through 7, they squeaked out that victory, and it's like they carried that momentum into this weekend. I'm excited to see this team, not to overlook Pittsburgh because this is a big early divisional series, but I'm excited to see this Brewers team go up against the Yankees in Milwaukee. Yankees, we know Soto's off to a fantastic start, home run ball and such. Aaron Judge, we know, right? Brewers are a little bit different. They're putting up some great offensive numbers, tops in a lot of offensive statistics, but I'm excited to see how the Brewers go about things and how the Yankees go about things and seeing these 2 teams match up this weekend. But first, let's try to take as many games as we can against Pittsburgh. Win your division games here. Would love to take 3 out of 4 against Pittsburgh. Maybe a split is a little bit more reasonable. I don't know. I mean, got a team that's 14-6 right now. Let's have a little higher expectations, I guess, Dan, here for, not just say, all right, let's at least take 2 out of 2. Let's take 3 out of 4. Why not? You got Ross that's going to be on the mound. He's going to be looking to bounce back tonight. Your pitching lineups. Miley is going to get to start on Tuesday. A little TBD action on Wednesday. TBD on Thursday. And I think if it were me, at least, if you can do it, see if Freddie can get that start against the Yankees on Friday. I'd like to see Freddie get a start against the Yankees. All right, let's take a quick break here, and we'll finish up the first hour here. We'll have Justice Cleveland joining us in the second hour, about 7:30 here. So, quick break. We'll be back in just a little bit. We're in turkey hunting mode right now, and the last thing you're probably thinking about is November and deer hunting, and you're probably thinking about, hey, what fishing hole to hit next, which golf course to play. But before you know it, deer season will be here. So that's why right now, this time of year is the time to prepare for deer season. And it's not just putting your cameras out or maybe planting some plots and moving your stands around. It's also that time of the year to assess your equipment, and it's that time to get a new deer rifle. We know summer's a busy time for everyone, and you're trying to fit everything into a few months. So make your shopping for a new deer rifle a little bit easier by visiting our good friends at Tilden Gun. Locally owned and operated, Sean and Hunter will provide you with amazing customer service. They'll help you find just what you're looking for, and the best part, it'll be at the best price. No lie, Tilden Gun has the biggest and best selection in the Chippewa Valley. Check it out for yourself by visiting tildengun.com. And as always, you can stop by the shop at 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. And don't forget, with turkey season going on right now, too, if you are having any luck out there, send us your photos, okay? So we can put them up on the Tilden Gun Trophy Gallery at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Just click on that outdoors tab over there, and you can check out the photos over there. Shoot us an email, send it on socials, whatever's easier for you, and we'll put it up on the Tilden Gun Trophy Gallery on our website. Tom from across the pond, our resident Lions fan there. Finally, draft week, he says, definitely up there as one of the best weeks of the year. Completely agree with you, Tom. Hope all is well over there. Brian, great to see a Bucks win without Giannis. Also, Colin Ray battled through a lot of his innings, but we got to Gray, who was pitching one heck of a game. Yeah, he had over double-digit strikeouts. So Bucks and Brewers firing on all cylinders, and now the Packers can add some more weapons with 11 picks in the draft. It's a good Monday if you are, I would say, a Wisconsin sports fan with the Brewers taking the brooms out and sweeping the Cardinals and then the Bucks with that game one victory over the Pacers when everybody, maybe I shouldn't say everybody, when a lot of people, national or even some Bucks fans, were a little like, yeah, ain't looking good for the Bucks this series. And I think the Bucks knew that. They heard that. They used it as their advantage. That little chip on their shoulder. Why not? I'd use it too. A lot of you would use it as motivation. Can they do it for another game? Can they do it maybe for a couple more games coming up there? That's going to be the question. Still a little bit unknown in terms of Giannis and such. But and I think by taking game one, maybe there isn't a little bit of pressure to make sure he plays game two. And if the Bucks can take game two tomorrow without him, then it just kind of maybe pushes it back a little bit later on. You know what I mean? So, all right. Don't forget, it is the weekend hangover. So, your highs and your lows. What are your highs? What are your lows from the weekend? Well, I mean, mine are pretty darn simple. It is the Bucks and it is the Brewers. The Brewers sweeping the Cardinals. Anytime you can sweep a division team, especially a team like the Cardinals, I'm sorry. This year it's probably going to be like the Cubs. We want to sweep a lot, but the Cardinals for me have always been that team that is just kind of like they're always there. And as a Brewers fan, they've kind of been a thorn in my side for a long time. So anytime you could go into St. Louis and sweep them, heck yeah. So that was a high. The Bucks were definitely a high from yesterday too. So those are definitely um, my highs from the weekend. I don't know if I really had any lows to be honest with you. I don't know if I had really any lows. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess my low I was thinking about this a little bit over the weekend, and it could change, but right now my low is I wanna see some guys going through the transfer portal to the Badgers right now. Because this past weekend was a lot of guys announcing their commitments of where they were going. Connor Essegian, yesterday's no big surprise, but made it official. He's going to Nebraska. And it has been pretty darn quiet right now for the Badgers. So, that's probably my low because I'm sitting here and I'm seeing a lot of these guys announcing their commitments of where they're going, transfer portal and such, and not seeing Wisconsin on there, and it was like, "Oh, are they gonna get anybody right now? Are they gonna get anybody?" It could change. It could change today, change tomorrow. Maybe it'll change in a week or 2. But right now, over the weekend, that was probably my low. I'm just waiting to see if there's any players that will be going to Wisconsin through the transfer portal for basketball. That's my weekend hangover. Your highs and your lows from the weekend? Let me know. Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. All right, coming up next hour, we'll talk a little football. We've got, Justice Cleveland will be joining us from 7:30 to 8:30. We'll do a little local sports rundown with him. Spring sports season in full bloom right now, so we'll get, the latest from him coming up at about, 8:03, 8:04. We'll do that, with him too. So, 1 in already, 2 more to go here. Lots to be excited about, County sports fans. Let's take a quick break, and then coming up after these news updates, we'll chat a little football with the NFL draft week coming up here. Play a little game. Goody's chatting today. You could ask a question to Goody. What would it be? Let's get those questions. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, here we go. Second hour kicking off on this Monday morning of April 22nd. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however, you may be tuning in from. Happy Happy draft week for those who celebrate the NFL draft. First round beginning on Thursday. Also, happy Earth Day today, too. So, what do we got? Well, first hour we spent the whole hour talking about the Bucks victory in Game One last night. Game time, at least in the first half. The Brewers sweeping the Cardinals in 3 games. Now they've got a 4 game set against the Pirates on the road before coming back home to face a couple I always want to combine these together. American League East teams, the Yankees this weekend, and then the Tampa Bay Rays right after that. So we'll get back to some more baseball and hoops talk. We've got Justice Cleveland joining us at the bottom of the hour. We'll do some local sports roundup with him, brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center, coming up just past 8 o'clock. Also, the highs and the lows. What are your weekend hangover, your highs and your lows from this past weekend? Tell us, join us in the convo, hitting us up with a text or video stream, Twitter, Facebook, whatever floats your boat out there. Okay. Brian Gutekunst will be Packers general manager. Brian Gutekunst will be having his draft presser today. Yeah, today. So answering questions leading up to it. Play a little game. If you could ask Goody one question, you had some media credentials to go to that presser today. What would be your question? If it were me, if I was in there and I were to ask Goody a question, honestly, I probably avoiding the draft chat altogether because for one, I don't think he's going to tip his hand either way of what they're thinking about drafting, who they're thinking about drafting, positions that they're thinking about drafting. I mean, I think he's going to hold his cards pretty close to the chest there. So I would just me. It's just me, and I know you got to ask draft ones there too, just to kind of get some sort of feedback or comments or whatever. But I mean, I guess if you want to maybe ask, certain positions what he thinks is really good at and depth wise and that, but I think a couple questions that I'd like to ask him would be one, not not does Andre the signing of Andre Dillard, not I wouldn't ask him like, hey, does this change your approach maybe to drafting an offensive lineman? Like how early would you draft an offensive lineman now? I wouldn't ask him that. I'd be more interested in asking him, okay, how do you view Dillard? Is he still left tackle in your mind? Or do you envision him more as a right tackle or perhaps lining up at guard? Would you what's their vision for him? Because I I personally don't think, unless I'm completely off on this, I personally don't think he right now is the starting left tackle on his team. I'd still go with Walker. I'd still go with Rasheed Walker on this thing. He deserves it more than Dillard does. But do they potentially view him more as a right tackle or a guard? And then I guess a follow-up to that question would be, ideally, would you rather have Zach Tom play center? Going back to what Rob Domofsky said on Wilde and Tausch a couple weeks ago. They view Zach Tom as a Pro Bowl right tackle, as an all-pro guard, but as a Hall of Fame center. And if that's the case, would they like to put Zach Tom at center sooner rather than later? And let's get this Hall of Fame career rolling. And let's get him and Jordan Love rolling for hopefully a while now. So that's, the offensive line question I'd ask him is not necessarily like, with the signing of Andre Dillard, does that change your approach to how you draft offensive linemen? I would be more curious to like what's their vision for him. And the follow-up to that would be, Do you wanna move Zach Tom right away as soon as possible to the center position? And again, I don't think he'd answer those at this point in time. Maybe you could phrase it a little bit different, like, do you think Zach Tom is better suited to play center? And again, we were just talking about what last hour, typical coach, general manager speak. He's probably gonna go, Zach Tom's a great player who can play multiple positions at a very high level, blah, 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 blah. But again, when we play this game, we're like, okay, we make the rules. We're gonna get some truthful answers from you now. I think the other question I would ask is how big of a need do they still see from that strong side linebacker position? Um, as Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, their top draft analyst, noted just a couple days ago on Twitter/X, not a good draft if you need off-ball linebackers. To which Green Bay needs a strong side linebacker, and even I mean, just depth at the position overall, right? McDuffie's right now going to be your starter at middle. Quay Walker's probably going to play the weak side. Eric Wilson, I think right now is probably penciled in as your starter over there on the strong side, special teams guy, but has played a lot of snaps, was a former starter with the Vikings under Mike Zimmer. So he's got experience there. But you're looking at the depth and maybe a little bit an eye to the future here too. So how much does Goody view or the importance of that strong side linebacker position, also with knowing that that guy might only play 20, 25, 30% of the snaps because defenses are so into nickels now, right? It's the extra corner. So how big of a need does he see that? Is he comfortable? The Packers, is Jeff Hafley comfortable if the starters are Quay, McDuffie, and Eric Wilson, and then you probably got some late round rookies as your backups? Or does he still think it's a big need? I mean, there were some rumors in free agency that they had their eyes on some linebackers there, and maybe the contracts were just a little too rich for their blood. Or does he view as like, hey, maybe, and again, he won't say this, but like Edgerrin Cooper, for example, linebacker at Texas A&M. Does a team like the Packers maybe draft him a little bit earlier because they want to make sure they come away, even with the talent group or the talent depth of this position not that great in this draft? Does that force a team like Green Bay, if they feel like that's a major need for them, to maybe draft one of those guys a little bit earlier than what's expected, just so that they can come away with one of the top available off-ball linebackers out there? So um, I'd be curious to get Goody's thoughts on the linebacker position right now for him. Or maybe does he view it on the flip side of like, hey, if that guy's only going to play 25% of the snaps, maybe it's a little bit lower on the priority list for us. So those were kind of the couple questions that really popped out to me. I think, if I threw out another one, I'd be curious to get his thoughts on the running back position right now, currently for his team. You're paying Josh Jacobs. You brought back AJ Dillon for essentially the minimum. Is AJ Dillon still viewed as a running back, or are you going to try to find a unique slash different role for him, aka H back, fullback, whatever the case may be? But then, do you still view it as a need, or do you view it as a big need to get another style of running back? Would I word it like, okay, you've got Jacobs, a big running back, you've got AJ Dillon, a bruising back. Is it a big priority for you to go into this draft and come away with maybe more of a scat back, speedy guy? because I feel like Jacobs, at least right now, I feel like Jacobs is you're gonna see more of a bell cow type of role than I think we've seen the last few years from the running back position from Green Bay, whereas, it was mix and match. You had Jones, and then, one series it'd be AJ Dillon, and a lot of Packers fans, let's be real too, there was times where they still felt like Aaron Jones should have played more. I'm one of those too. Like, okay, keep him in there a little bit more. But they broke up, the carries, the amount of carries, the amount of snaps, the amount of plays. I feel like bringing in Jacobs, that might change a little bit more. One, he's a bigger back, different scenarios and such, but I still feel like it is a need for Green Bay to go out there and get a different type of running back in this draft. And I've got a guy in my mock that I'm not gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna record it. Then if you want an early listen to it, it'll be up on the podcast later today. But I got a guy that he hasn't really been talked to or mentioned with Green Bay. So I might just be pulling something out of there where there's nothing. But there's a guy that intrigues me that I think could be a unique player within this offensive makeup for Green Bay. When I was doing this mock draft for the Packers, something kind of really stood out to me. And it was kind of like I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm missing some things here. And I started to think about it. And I started to think about last year's draft and what Goody did. What was his priority for a lot of them? Not, when we talk about draft, a lot of people we focus on the first round, right? The first round pick. Who was that? Okay. And it was Lucas Van Ness, and we were like, "What? You got Rashawn, you got Preston, and all that, guy's not going to get out there." But then when you look after that, when you look at the other picks after Van Ness, Musgrave, Reed, Kraft, Dontavian Wicks was in the 5th round. You got Jordan Love some weapons, and even the year before, Watson, Romeo Dobbs. So when I was looking at this, when I did my Packers 7-round mock, and I'll just give you a little bit of this. I was looking at it, and I'm like, this just looks like a draft to me that doesn't necessarily have a ton of like wow players, like a lot of like playmaker type players. And I don't want to diss any of these guys by any means, but like the last couple years, he had Watson, like, okay, big, speedy wide receiver. Last year was a tight ends, and then Jaden Reed giving Jordan Love some weapons, right? And I just feel like, at least on my mock draft, and just kind of thinking about it overall from a Packer sense, I don't know if it's necessarily trying to find weapons offensively and defensively, but it's just like, all right, filling in some depth spots, maybe filling in a couple holes here or there. Because it's not like I'm literally looking at it right now on my tablet. The guys that I put on my mock, and I'm like, they may not be the sexiest players. That's probably the best way to put it. They may not be the sexiest players. Maybe a couple of them on there, but they just kind of like, I don't know, they fill some depth, fill some holes. They may not be Hall of Famer. I don't know, and we'll see how their careers go. But it's different. It's different from the last couple of years where you can be like, "Ooh, yeah, that's a weapon. That's a weapon. That's a weapon. That guy's got a weapon," and all that. I don't know if I'd categorize any of these guys as weapons, if that kind of makes sense. So, all right. If you want to make your predictions for who the Packers will make for as their first overall pick, go to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and click on the Fan Cave tab over there. You'll have to scroll down to the bottom there a little bit, and you'll see that little thing that we got going on. It's called "The Pick Is In." Give me the player that you think the Packers will select first. Don't tell me that trade it. That's not what we're looking for. Eventually, the Packers will make a pick, whether it's in the second round or whether they move up in the first or whether they move back. Eventually, they're going to make a pick. So don't tell me that they're gonna trade. That's not what I'm looking for. Tell me who you think that person is. See if we get anybody right. I'll tell you right now, there's one player that is the most popular pick out there. I think you all can figure out who that is. But and don't text it to me right now. Go on our website so I can get that list and enter who you think it is going to be. All right, coming up here in a little bit, we'll talk to Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire for WEAU 13 News. He'll be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. We'll get back to some more Bucks chats. Bucks picking up that win last night against the Indiana Pacers, holding the highest scoring team in the NBA in the regular season to under 100 points last night. 109 to 94 victory. Damian Lillard scored 35 all in the first half. Then the Pacers had the mentality of like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to try to take Dame out of this game. Everybody else has to beat us. Or was that in the first half? Expect the Pacers to do that in the second game here. But no word on Giannis, but I would expect him not to play in game two either. But we'll see. Then we'll get back to some more baseball talk. Brewers sweeping the Cardinals over there, um, taking 3. Now they've got a 4-game road trip. They were on the road this past weekend, but continue the road trip here against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll get to some picks and predicts in the 8 o'clock hour here. But Pat Murphy, 14-6 to begin his managerial career with the Brewers. Is tied for the second most wins in the first 20 games. Tied for the second most wins in the first 20 games as a Brewers manager. Talk a little Blake Perkins, how much he has been taking advantage of his opportunity right now. William Contreras continues to just kind of rake from the play right now. Offensively, he's been uber consistent since the beginning of the year. Guy has just been on a roll right now. So, also don't forget it is the weekend hangover. So, whatever whatever your highs and your lows are from this weekend, let us know. Hit me up with a text at 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break. Maybe a button lets me push it. There we go. And then we'll get Justice Cleveland on here in just a few minutes after these quick words.
We are getting set for another busy travel season, vacations, taking the kiddos to all their games and activities and events, and you need a proper vehicle to get to where you're going and safely. That's where Toyson Ford can help you out. Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used car shopping. They will gladly work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. They're committed to giving drivers across the Chippewa Valley the best in customer service. So check them out for yourself. Visit Toyson Ford today at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls and visit them online at toysonford.net. Including, speaking of reliable and all that good stuff, we got JC and the EC
Oh, thank you.
coming in here this morning. Surprised you're not catching up watching the Heritage. Is that they on the course right now?
Man, they're about 8:30 right now.
Okay.
Maybe they are.
Scheffler's going to go back to back. I mean, I almost feel like, what he's doing is freaking awesome this year so far. A little under the radar though, too. Like, is it because you think if I don't mean this in a negative way, but I feel like Scheffler's kind of boring, like personality wise. So maybe that's like if this is Rory, everybody's talking about it.
Yep.
If it's Tiger, of course, or those guys. But Scheffler just seems to be that guy that's like, yeah, okay, going out there and doing his business.
Right, and that's what I like about him. I really do. I like the fact that he's just out there. He's not even like he doesn't have personality, because if you ever hear interviews with him, he's actually a really funny guy. But when he's on the course, and it's not like he's just doing it. Yeah. It's not like he's serious driven, like he's got the
kind of like a VJ Singer sort of like. Remember, like he was always like almost didn't want to mess with him or
right. Where it's not like he's locked in, but he's not like to the point where you wouldn't want to approach him. He's just like the everyday guy. I almost feel like he's like the people's champion in a way, because he just looks like a guy you would go golfing with, except he has the best skill in the world right now at what he's doing.
Yep.
So I think it's almost like the Mike Trout syndrome, where everybody's like, "Oh, Mike Trout's boring," but Mike Trout's the best player overall, maybe in the MLB. Well, just keep going doing what you're doing, Mike Trout, because the numbers aren't going to lie, and that's the same thing with Scotty Scheffler. And we can't mention what Scheffler's doing without Nelly Corda has done on the LPGA Tour. 5 in a row to tie the modern record. When you're mentioned with Nancy Lopez and Annika Sormstrom, that's
pretty good company.
Yeah, I mean that's like Arnold and Jack.
Yep.
On the men's side there. So for her to doing this in the modern day, when the talent level, and nothing against the fields that they were playing against back then, but like the PGA, it's a worldwide game now. Where you go 1 through 10, 1 through 20, anybody could win a tournament. For her to do this now, when the game is as global as it is just amazing. Best swing out there.
Yep.
Nelly Corda is just, you watch her, it's so pure. There's nothing you would like with Scotty. You got the footwork and all that.
I was going to say that Scotty is like that footwork where he's got that foot slide and everything over there. It's like, I feel like golf coaches all over the world are saying, don't do that, sort of thing, but it works for him.
So it's a good time for golf. It really is. And then, you think about with Scheffler, he's got the weight of, there's a child coming too.
Yeah.
So he's been doing this knowing that he's probably not going to be playing for a little bit.
Yep.
Once the child comes. So, and that's when the world changes.
Yep.
As we can attest, that's going to be a whole different life. And it's happened to a lot of golfers where your focus is golf right now. Once that child comes, it
especially your first one.
Yeah, it's going to change a lot. So we'll see how he reacts to that. But it's a getting used to process, and as is a lot of things in life. But I mean, I don't expect Scheffler to fall off after this.
No,
but we've not seen this in a long time.
Nope.
I think do people want, like, Tiger was almost like an assassin out there.
Yeah.
Like he was a guy I would not ever want to approach Tiger Woods during a round, or even like get too near him.
Right.
Whereas like Scheffler's just finds an answer. Maybe it's more analytical than we really like, with the wedge shots, making eagles that no one else is thinking about. So that's what makes I love Scotty Scheffler. I've loved Scotty Scheffler for the last couple of years, because I just think that's what it is. It's just this guy who's that everyman, but deep down, he's just he's got every calculation down.
Well, when you say every man, that's kind of Arnold Palmer-esque.
I feel like he is kind of like that. I really do. I think there was that shot where he was within the crowd at Augusta, and people love Scotty Scheffler. As much as people are always boring, maybe he's not drawing the rating eyes that people are talking about, and people are talking about PGA Tour, rating down and stuff like that. But I'll tell you one thing: you can watch more PGA Tour than you ever could on different outlets.
Right.
I go on a Thursday, I could fire it up at 10 o'clock in the morning. because there's all these different ways. So you're not just stuck with the regular broadcast. You can fire up the PGA, the webcast and stuff like that. I think there's still a lot of eyes on it. I know the live stuff, we can get into that, but yeah, I think Scotty Scheffler's number one no matter who's on the tour right now.
Yeah. It's kind of giving me Tiger flashback, just the run of dominance. We'll see if it continues because we've seen those flashing up. I mean, Spieth was it 2015 on that run he was on too. So
it's funny too because when Annika Sormsten was at her top was right when Tiger was at his so it's kind of fun that we have Nelly Korda showing what she can do, and then you got Scotty Scheffler doing it at the same time. So good time to be a golf fan.
Absolutely. It's also a good time for a Wisconsin sports fan right now, especially after the weekend.
I also who did I pick to win the Masters?
You did pick Scheffler.
There we go.
Yeah.
Not that was one of many who did, but
I thought the kid thing was going to be distracting, but it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't for him. So
he's just out there chewing on his, power bars, eating his almonds, and hitting shots within an inch of the hole.
I feel like that swing. I was watching it again this morning. The foot slide over there that he has. It's all lower body.
Right. It's the hip turn. That's the biggest thing is he's getting that hip turn, and he really gets that. Just whips it out, and that's why his feet are moving. So
anybody who doesn't play golf and are listening to us like, what the heck are you guys talking about over there? It's all in the hips. Yep.
Not a lie. Chubbs wasn't lying.
He wasn't. It's also a good time though to be a Wisconsin sports fan, as I'll say. I mean, Bucks, let's start off with them a little bit last night. Kind of playing probably with a chip on their shoulder, which is, for on the most part, a third seed playing at home. They were an underdog.
Yep.
But a lot of people picking against them because of no Giannis and maybe kind of how the Bucks were playing towards the end of the stretch there. A lot of people saying it's got to be Dame time now. This is why you bring in a guy like Dame and that. I feel like I almost had this feeling like I could see the Bucks in game one kind of just like, okay, they're going to come out firing right away. Crowd's going to get into it. They're going to build a lead and maybe take game one over there. Dame was just on fire in the first half.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why the Pacers didn't have that game plan for the second half and the first half of like
that guy right over there. You can't let that guy beat you.
Yeah, let's just double team him and try to force everybody else to beat us. Which I think they're probably going to try to do in game two now. Pick him up.
They got to change it up. Yeah, obviously
pick him up at full court, try to trap him, double team him, and all that. But nonetheless, I mean, Middleton had himself a nice game in the second half there too, and he stepped up in big moments. So, I mean, would you say it was an impressive win or just that's what they were supposed to do last night?
I think it was impressive because he also held Halliburton to 9 points?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's the guy who was really beat them down during the regular season. So you played good defense against a team that
highest scoring in the regular season.
Right. So you got that. You have the starting five really coming out and playing well. And, you put Bobby Portis, when you put Bobby Portis in there, you want him to come out and have a game like that. And he did. So the thing you got to wonder is like a Brook Lopez sustainable playing that much time at his age. And will they find a way to exploit his weaknesses at times? But I mean, these two teams had played each other 5 times during the regular season. So there's not a whole lot of secrets at this point. And, Doc talked about last week when they found out they were playing the Pacers. He actually wasn't again. He's like, we got to play somebody, but now we're playing a team that we've played 5 times and we have a whole week to game plan. So I think it actually helped that, they didn't have somebody that was in the play-in tournament. They had somebody that was set up and that they could game plan. Now going forward, now your game plan's been kind of revealed.
Right.
Now you got to figure out what adjustments Indiana makes. But I think that this is the level this team's possible to play at. And now is Dame going to get 35 in the first half? I don't know if that's going to happen every game. But if you can spread it out and if Middleton plays to the level that he can, I think they can win this series. I think so. And you're out to, getting that 1-0 lead is huge.
You take game 2 tomorrow night, and I think that pushes back the return of Giannis a little bit too, which might be a good thing. Make sure he's fully healthy and you don't start to panic. They lose last night, then they lose game 2. I could see them saying, okay, can we push it? Can we get him out there a little bit? You hate to say that, but we've seen that how many times in the world of sports. But I think somehow you can win these games and not have to throw Giannis out there if he's not fully ready. Is such a huge benefit, especially in the second round where you might have to face the Knicks, let's say,
right?
In that second round there too. So, but yeah, Dame That's the reason you make a trade for Dame is
Right.
for games like that.
He's 1A, 1B. That's what
Mhm.
you want. You want Giannis as your 1A, you want Dame right as your 1B, and when you don't have Giannis, you have Dame step up like that. So I think, one thing we gotta also look at is how much time has Doc Rivers really had a chance to dissect anything? Because he gets made head coach.
Then he's
All-Star game.
coach.
Yeah, then he's gotta coach the All-Star game. So instead of having that break, there he is having to coach a game and all
Mhm.
that stuff, and then get right back on the court a couple days later. So I think this is the first time he's really had a chance to completely sit down for, 5 days and look at what this team can do and see
Mhm.
what worked and what didn't work during the end of the regular season there. So I think that had to help a little bit,
Yeah.
just to finally, go do a deep dive on some of this stuff and see what you can do. And that's, I mean, his assistants obviously that are there to help him do that. But
Mhm.
I think that this time off had to help that team.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't even the coach when they played the Pacers all those 5 games in the first because their last game was January 3rd.
Right. So I think he was, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. So he was already,
shortly after that
yeah,
is
because
when
it
he
was Joe
was
Prunty. It was Prunty because I remember looking up the video there. Yeah. So
I mean, so he kinda came in maybe with a new fresh perspective on that, but, I don't know if you're listening, Grant Hill and Ian Eagle were kinda talking about it too, and they mentioned a few times where, when they were talking to Doc and they were talking to the team leading up to this and just how confident they were, about this game, about this series, and, it's something I didn't realize, they're the oldest team in the league, the Bucks are,
yeah,
average age, which now when you think about it, kinda makes sense, with it. Is it vibes of, like, almost this would be best case scenario because 'cause we'll see how it plays out, Spurs-esque when it was Duncan, Ginobili, and Tony Parker, where they used the regular season, and so I look at that second half, Doc Rivers comes in, a lot of adjustments, trying to figure out each other a little bit, but using the regular season to prime up for a postseason run, because it seemed like Grant and Ian Eagle were kinda, like, surprised, like, just how confident this team was heading into this game with no Giannis, and the way they finished, like Grant said, they were under 500, since Doc Rivers was
right.
hired, but and they were kinda the impression I got was they were kinda surprised at just how confident they were, but maybe that's just also too because it's such a veteran-led team.
Right. And I think that was a team that always had the big picture in their head
Mhm.
of, hey, we might be struggling right now, but you know what? We're in the playoffs. And none of that really matters until I don't want to discount the regular season. But those veteran players know when it gets to the playoffs, that's when you've got to turn it up. And maybe that's the thing. I mean, they don't want to lose games,
Mhm.
but they also realize that those losses in the grand scheme of things didn't mean as much because they're in the playoffs.
Right,
And they knew they were in the playoffs for how long? They were clinched a spot forever. So
right.
it's like they knew they were going to be there. It was just a matter of where they were going to be. And now they know that. And now maybe, that focus has changed to a team that, like you said, it's veteran. It is all veteran. You look at that starting lineup they threw out there. Every one of those guys has played tons of minutes
Mhm,
in pressure situations in the playoffs.
mhm.
So yeah, I can see them being like, okay, big picture wise, is this team have enough to keep it going? And then you throw when you get Giannis back, can that even just jump things up? So
Right,
I hope they can get, if they can get a sweep here in the, and that's asking a lot, I
right.
know, but if you can get maybe 5 games and Giannis doesn't have to play in this season, you get him rest until second round,
Mhm.
that would be huge. So I mean, again, a lot of basketball to be played in this series, but if you try to get out that 2 games to none lead, that would
If
be huge.
the Bucks win tomorrow, do they win this series?
You would hope so,
Yeah.
but
I mean, we've seen it before. Bucks were down 0-2 in that finals, and they
right,
go and win 4 in a row,
exactly. So
so
yeah, I can't. I would never throw a guarantee out there because I think that
Mhm,
Indiana team's got a lot of weapons that,
mhm.
and they got youth. They
That's the
definitely have
thing.
youth.
I was gonna say they wanna run, which you would think would be, like, the worst thing the Bucks wanna do with
Right.
a veteran team, that transition, defense and all, and I thought they did a good job. Yeah, there were a few times where Indiana was able to get out and transition, but you hold the highest scoring team to under 100, you're gonna put yourself in a position to win that game.
Yeah, and I think Indiana, if you're coming back in this game too, you find ways to put Brook out in the perimeter.
Mhm.
That's where we've seen him struggle during the regular season is Brook trying to guard these guys and have to move towards the hoop.
Right.
But he's a center.
Yeah.
He's a center who has adapted probably better than anybody from the traditional center to having to play outside.
Yep.
That being said, he's 36 years old,
Yeah.
35 years old, whatever, and just doesn't have the foot speed. to put up with a lot of these forwards that are now guard speed.
Right.
So that's that my main thing is how long can Brook handle if he keeps playing like he did in this one, they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to the bench, that's where I get a little more afraid with the Bucks because that bench just is not deep right now.
No, and then you go really small.
Yeah.
When you don't have Brook out there, which I know Pascal Siakam had himself a game, kind of got overshadowed,
Yeah.
a little bit there. But I mean, if there's one thing to take away, if you're the Pacers, it's probably like, do we have a huge advantage right now with Pascal with no Giannis out there maybe to kind of cover him that they kind of focus on a little bit more?
Yeah, and
point.
that slippery, tall guy who can
Mhm.
get into the lane,
Mhm.
which, that is going to bode trouble for Brook, and I don't know who you bring in. Jay Crowder doesn't seem to have the defensive speed anymore. So, and like that's a mismatch with Pat Connaughton because Connaughton just doesn't have the height.
Right.
So, yeah, I think if it gets into the bench, that's where I think the Bucks are going to be in trouble. But if their starting five performs the way it performed last night, they should be able to win most games.
Because they only had to play one hole. It is now official. Scheffler has won the Heritage. So,
good job, Scotty. Just before breakfast.
Breakfast, I was like 1 or 2 holes they had to go out there or something like that and just finish it off. So
that stinks. Like they have, like you could, but it was pouring. If you saw it and it's dark and it's pouring rain, what are you going to do? Even Scotty Scheffler is probably like, I don't want to risk this. So, goes from the green jacket to the checkered
jacket. Yeah,
back to back.
Got to get a bigger closet out there now, man. So
they should make them like the next year have to play around in that jacket.
Do you like that? I'll be honest with you. I didn't know until this past year with the Masters that the jacket stays there after the year.
I think that's cool because then it's.
I honestly didn't realize that they don't like Tiger doesn't have a green jacket. Like I knew they did get a new one.
Yeah,
but I'm like surprised there's not a green jacket in the trophy room unless he's got one specially made, like we see Super Bowl trophies.
Right, and it's like the what's the British Open trophies.
Oh yeah.
Claret jug. Yeah, you have to you keep it for the first year, and then you can get one made for the second year. So
yeah,
I think that's neat. I think what you're afraid of is somebody going off and auctioning off that jacket.
At some point. That's
to me
a good point.
What they're it's like they want to keep this tradition. And I mean, if there's any place that really loves tradition, it's Augusta and the Masters. So they want to kind of keep that control there. So
I didn't even think about that part, but you're right. Yeah, because if one of those things went on eBay or some sports collectible memorabilia thing, that might set some records.
Right. So I think they want to control that and know that it's there for them.
Still weird to see Peyton Manning wearing one though, like I saw this last Masters because he's a member over there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to become a member.
And Tiger's not even a member.
No. Most there's only like 2 ex-players that are members there.
I think Jack is a member.
Yep.
I don't know who the other one is right now off the top of my head. Yeah. But Peyton is.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning is.
Going out there and
I think Tiger probably will be eventually.
Yeah. I think it's more like when you're done playing.
Yeah.
But I don't think Tiger's done. Even with the tough performance on the weekend, I think he wants to keep coming back there. I watched, for some reason, I just went in a deep dive and went into the 98 Masters. That's when Mark O'Meara won.
Yeah, Mark O'Meara.
That's where Jack was. So that would have been, so he was what, 46 and 86?
85?
86.
86, yeah.
So, so he would have been 58. And he was in like the top 10. Like had a chance on, like if he would have had a good back 9. So that, I mean, that if you're Tiger, you're still good 10 years. And then, these guys, like I said, we've said, these guys know this course. It's still the most challenging course, but I think they'll still keep playing there as long as they can.
You mentioned that, and I don't know how the championship round, I think. And it was Tiger and Jack.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like Tiger had just won one. So whatever year that would have been. But it was the announcer. And like the video said, the only time that Tiger got out-goated, like on a tee, because they announced, how many wins you have. And it said, 90 was the, PGA Championship winner Tiger Woods. He teed off. And then it's like, and now it's the this year, or that year, like 5 of them in a row. Jack Nicklaus,
Yeah. Jack is, I mean, I don't think people, a lot of them are still going to defer nowadays to Tiger. Jack to me still
the Golden Bear.
How many runners up he had to majors?
That's
it's like 17 or something.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous number. That like, holy crap.
He could have had 3 majors.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'll still go with Jack, but Tiger's right there. Tiger had the injuries not caught up. Probably surpasses him, but that's how it ends up going.
Bobby Jones is my Don Hudson.
There you go.
Kind of back era. Yeah. But
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you can go Ben Hogan.
Oh,
you go Slinging Sammy Snead. You know, I mean, Byron Nelson. So
yeah, Ben Hogan won, especially after the accident, and then a year later, just like
So I mean, golf. We've done our deep dives on golf, so I won't bore people. But yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break here, and we'll finish up the second hour talking some baseball here. Brewers sweeping the Cardinals. Pat Murphy era under a pretty darn good start so far. We'll take a quick break and be back in just a couple minutes. So once in a while on Mondays, we do a little random nugget, random story, that sort of stuff. I found out who the other former player is a member at Augusta. You might know who he is after I say the name, but it's not a name I would have known who this is. John Harris, former Gophers coach from Edina, Minnesota.
Huh.
Yeah.
So he must live down there, I assume.
Yeah, he's only got 3 wins, it looks like. His best Masters finish was in 1990, tied for 50. Otherwise, that's about it. This is according to the Palm Beach Post. Jack Nicklaus and John Harris are the only 2 pro players who are
one of those. If I can't beat them, I'm just going to join it.
Right. So Nicklaus and John, only pro golfers who are members of Augusta National.
So that is really good.
Yeah, I was thinking of somebody we had heard mostly about, but yeah. So I'm like, okay, who's that? Looked it up. Oh, apparently coached the Gophers, golfed in Minnesota, and from Edina, Minnesota. So, all right, there you go.
Get sick of the cold and
I don't
Went
blame
down
him.
to Augusta.
I don't blame him. So, Brewers taking the brooms out, sweeping the Cardinals. Which anytime you can sweep the Cardinals, I'm okay with that because it doesn't happen too often.
Right. I think anybody in the NL Central
Mhm.
is all smiles when that happens.
Especially in St. Louis too, when you can do it on the road there. I want to talk a little bit about Pat Murphy here, though. 14-6. We know the start he's on right now. You know, and I know this isn't the job of a coach, as a manager, general manager, to go out and do their media sessions and be, a lot of times, like later today when Goody talks, he ain't going to say anything.
Right.
It's going to be
He'll
general
say
manager.
more than Ted Thompson used to say.
Yes.
But
and I know that shouldn't matter because we want them just to win. That's the main thing. But the one thing I appreciate coming from a fan side is just how open and honest it seems like Pat Murphy has been so far this year, which I think we kind of knew was probably going to more of a personality out there. But a couple of things that kind of stood out to me. I mean, one, he acknowledged that he was not a Blake Perkins guy. I don't know if you saw that from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, but like in 2023, he said, he's like, I just, yeah. And then yesterday, he's like, oh, yeah, I was dead wrong. And I'm glad I was dead wrong. Now I love that guy, And then DL Hall, he talked about his start on Saturday. He's like, we can't keep rolling out there going 3 1/3, unacceptable. He is young and all that. And I just feel like I could see other coaches just kind of like towing the line there,
Right.
Sort of stuff. But I feel like part of that open and honesty and his personality, this team's kind of feeding off that too. Or
I think so. Yeah. And he's, players love him.
Yeah.
They really do. I think it's because of, there's honesty, but there's also almost like a way that he's on your side, even if he's telling, he's always cheering for these guys, even if they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And he's admitting that they're struggling, but he's, there seems to be, he looks like the most gruff guy in the world.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's him.
Right.
I think you hear everything about him is that he's just this really nice guy that knows his baseball and will be honest, but also is going to be on your side and wants you to succeed. So I think everything so far shows that with this Brewers team. I mean, I was worried after the Padres first couple games. Was it first 3-game losing streak at one point
because they lost to Baltimore, then the first 2 to Padres, and it looked like they were going to get no hit
right
in that last game there.
And you're like, oh, here we go. This is where it's turning around. And then they win that game, those are the games that they used to lose.
Yep,
where they were the team. Like you had Corbin Burns out there going 7, and then they didn't score a run. So for them to get the win there, and then this weekend sweep the Cardinals, I think they're back. I think this team this isn't going to be a peaks and valley kind of thing with this team. I think it's going to be a team that can have that losing streak, but just go back out there and battle and get back on the winning side. So that's what you like to see. It didn't sink down after that Padres series, and after you had that first losing streak, they really bounced back.
And they're doing things different. Like it's not just like, oh, he was the bench coach for 8 years, so it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. It's different, and that yes, the pitching is different because you don't have a Corbin or a Brandon that you can go out there for 6. And maybe be a little cautious with your offense, be a little complacent, whatever the case may be. They're aggressive on the base paths. Bryce Terang's already got 10 steals,
right?
This year. They're playing a little bit small ball at times. I mean, that third game against the Padres, I think was the perfect example of like you get Bryce Terang on, you send him to steal second. Blake Perkins then hits a single. I mean, that's the small ball in a fight I think a lot of Brewers fans want to see. Situational baseball,
which we did not see a lot in the last few years.
Right.
Council. It was just go up there and swing the way you normally swing and don't. You're seeing guys actually try to send it to different fields. And I think that's the makeup of this lineup too.
Right.
I mean, you have Rhys Hoskins can hit home runs. We know that. Contreras can hit home runs, but they're also contact guys.
Yeah.
And so to be able to see that and for them to do that in those situations and come up clutches, it's fun. It's a fun team. It really is. We likened it to the Packers last year, where your expectations, you didn't know what's coming in, but you knew they were going to be young, and they've been exciting so far.
Yeah.
I worry about the amount of pitching. You can't have guys going 3 and a half innings. That bullpen is, they're pitching a lot out of their bullpen.
Yes.
And that has to worry you a little bit because
we're only 20 games in, and you're starting to kind of like, okay, that's a lot already.
Yeah, the odds aren't in your favor if you're pitching 6 pitchers a game.
Right.
So that'll have to kind of get shored up, and as the DL Hall's on the
15-day list. Yeah.
Now you're a little even shallower in the pitching depth. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate the pitch. I think that all to me will be the biggest thing.
It'll be interesting. I know we got a couple months to it. But if they're still in first place or in contention, trade deadline, do they look at another starter potentially that could eat those innings, or more bullpen just to get more help in there? That'll be curious to see what approach they go with that.
That's going to be the $1 billion question there. Like, how do you and what do you get rid of?
Right.
Like, are you willing to part with a Willie Adames for more pitching because you think these younger guys can step in there? I'd say Christian Yelich, but at $25 million, I think he's making the most off per position in the MLB. Christian Yelich is making the most this year.
Wow. Well, he was off to a good start until that.
And I want to give Yelich. I'm not saying discounting Yelich. I want to be there. I'm just wondering, like, what would be they have the prospects. So it'll be that.
They got some outfielders that maybe they could move on from, but
right.
A lot of guys have been stepping up at different points. Contreras has just been insanely consistent throughout the whole season so far.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, like you said, has the power, but can also spray to different fields.
Yep. All right, 2 in. We got 1 more to go. We got about 25, 30 more minutes with JC. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Third hour kicking off right now with JC Anisi, Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire for WEAU 13 News. We just got a few minutes left here. We're going to get back to some more draft off. Happy draft week, by the way.
Yes.
I know you're big into, you're dissecting the prospects right now and all that.
So much that I can't divulge anything until after the picks are in. Then I grade myself.
Hopefully the pick comes in time for you on Thursday's broadcast. That's
it'll be the break.
Yeah.
Before I'm about to go out there.
Yep.
Still nothing will beat the 2021.
Enjoy. Yeah.
Us all being on the Zoom. And then,
yep.
Oh, that was times that's at least that one's more of like a fun memory to have. But
do you remember what beverage I had after that pick was made? I was so down.
I remember seeing you. I can't remember what it was.
It was probably the last time I had it. Zima.
That's right. They started making it.
Yeah.
You didn't have one from like 1995.
No, because Brandon picked me up a 6-pack like the year prior or something, and I was holding on to him.
Vintage Zima from 1997.
I was like, screw it. I'm going to pop that open.
A couple of watermelon Jolly Ranchers with it.
I think I still have one more bottle in that fridge, too.
Zima. That's college right there.
Right.
Oh, boy.
I still remember the commercials.
Oh, yeah.
The sticky sandals. Zima.
Well, then was it that they couldn't like detect it?
Right.
It was something like that. They had to get rid of it because they couldn't tell that it was alcohol.
That was like there was Smirnoff and what Sky Blue one was. There was all those versions out there. So
now there's a million of those kind of back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep.
Pickings were slim.
Oh, good stuff. So we'll get back to some more draft stuff coming up a little bit later on. But we only got Justice here for a few more minutes, so I just want to do a quick rundown because I know we are in full spring sports mode right now on the local side. Baseball action has been going on hot right now. First, before we get to that, though, just really quick, last week we did have some coaching changes around here with football, especially Rob Scott leaving Memorial, Fall Creek. Marcus replacing Tyler over there. Cadot's got a new coach. Even on the hockey side, Memorial, Coach Collins stepping down too. So a lot of changes.
Yeah, and it's kind of that time of year when you want to give your schools time to so you're giving the notice here in the spring that they have end of the school year to get somebody in before the summer practices. So
right.
We were talking off air like the Rob Scott thing. You could see that. If you lived up there, coached up there for 12 years on the Superior. And the head coach comes out there. I can completely understand going back up there and become the head man. So, but I had nothing but great dealings with Rob Scott here. So I wish him nothing but the best up there in Superior. What a really nice guy who did a lot of good things in the community as well. So nothing but the best for him. And then obviously you go with Colin stepping down. You get a longtime assistant stepping in there who's been there forever and now gets his chance to sign. Collins is going to step back. And be on the bench as well, so as kind of a guiding hand. So good transition there as well. And then with both Fall Creek and Cadott, you had guys step down, and then you have assistants and guys who've been around the programs stepping up too. So really good transitions that I think it'll be pretty comfortable for a lot of the players that are coming back to get back into.
Yep. I know on baseball wise, Brandon was talking a little bit about it on Friday with the Big Rivers, and again, it's just kind of going to be one of those years. I think that's going to be going down to the wire. I know last week we had a couple walk-up. Was it North had a walk-off?
Yep.
And I know this is Cloverbelt, but Regis
North almost gets no hit the first game and then walks it off against New Richmond in the second one. So.
Yeah. And then I know it's Cloverbelt, but Regis with the Grand Slam walk-off over there too. So it seems like another year, at least overall from this area, is going to be a lot of really good baseball action.
Yeah. And I think I don't know if there's a team right now that's standing out completely above the rest. I think there's just a lot of really good teams. So it's going to be just a competitive battle down to the end. And once they get in the playoffs and see if some of these teams can work it out there too. So it's been funny, and Darren got to leave Strum.
Yep.
Good team there too. So I think
they had a good run last year, didn't they?
Yeah. So they returned a lot of those players. And then Fall Creek's back in baseball. And they're, I think 1-3 to start off there. Not having baseball for a couple of years to come back and be able to get that. And then on the softball side of things, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, in the Cloverbelt, you got McDonald and Fall Creek just battling. And Thorpe is right there. And Thorpe is just as good as them. So you have a 3-headed monster battling in softball there. Big Rivers wise, Chi High just continuing to be
Mm-hmm.
just such a great team, but right below them, the rest of the conference is just tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's just going to be some good battles going on here. It's still early, and some teams might start hitting their stride once warmer weather comes too.
Right. Golf wise, are the teams starting to hit the course that they've been out on? I know
Yes.
Brandon said, is there a bloomer one this week, like tomorrow or this week? I think a big one coming up.
I know. Yeah, you got some of that going on. I know. Like Memorial or the Big Rivers is having one at Troy Burn today, if I'm not mistaken. So this morning they're out there. Memorial was over at Sheboygan at Black Wolf Run for a big invite that they have every year there, and they finished 6th as a team. So out of I don't know how many 30 teams or something like that. So they're going to be another tough Memorial year there. Yeah, find a way to restock the shelf. So yeah, I think hopefully we get some of the warmer weather here. Obviously today, then we got rain in the forecast, but that's April.
It is.
I mean, it could not have been. Wednesday and Thursday they were over at Black Wolf Run, and that wind whipping off the lake. It probably felt like it was 30 degrees out there. I know the first day it was raining and they ended up suspending play, but yeah. So these guys are used to it. They're like me. They go out there. If there's a little chance that you can get out, you're going
to do it. The only thing difference is they put up better scores than you.
Oh, much better. Yeah.
It's just, I know we say it every year at this time, but it just boggles my mind the talent level of, and that starts down to the youth golf and going all the way up there too. But it's just, I mean, you have, we were talking a little bit off the air, but Long Bell almost, making the cuts for people. I mean, just the history of all these golfers from this area has been amazing.
It's really fun. Like I said, I've always enjoyed it because golf, a lot of times, depending on how good you get from freshmen, like Will Schlitz.
Yeah.
I watched him when he was a freshman, and sophomore year, he went to state. And so I got another 2 years, I got a final year this year to watch him play. So it's a lot of fun to see these guys out there and watch the game grow. And golf is one of those games where you can be a little more interactive, obviously, because it's, anybody who golfs knows that.
Right.
It's a social sport. So yeah.
Absolutely. Soccer wise, I mean, I was driving by Claremont Saturday, saw the Memorial Fields were full of soccer over there too. But from that perspective, is it's kind of the same teams up there, when it comes to Big Rivers and that, Memorial Hudson,
Yep.
Sort of thing.
And Chi High's building up as well. North has been right there. North plays a lot of tough games, a lot of draws, and, close games. So they're battling as well. So yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where you're those teams and you're battling these elements and you're out there playing for.
And I know track and field too with the wind. I mean, unless it's behind you, might help with some of your runs and such.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost been not the cold so much. It's been really blustery.
Right.
So for a lot of these sports, it's just you're dealing with that more than anything. And you're playing softball, you're playing soccer. The wind just completely affects obviously golf too.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure they're all would rather have it 45 and sunny than 55 and 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts.
Right. Exactly. All right. Before I let you go here, really quick, then too, just to shout out because I know Blue Goals. It was like Blue Goals versus Stout. For a lot of sports this past weekend. Baseball split. I know against Stout over the weekend too. Track and field. They were over in lacrosse coming up here too. So, what? Blue Gold softball Y I kind of just started up the other day too.
So they had a non-conference yesterday and split with St. Benedict. I'm turning British.
I wish I had that accent.
It's not mean to do that.
So I mean, Blue Gold events going on. Track and field too. Kind of the outdoor schedule. I was looking at it the other day here. It's going to be coming up here. Just a month left.
Yeah, it goes real quick. I mean, you get towards May, and that's when you're starting to talk about the outdoor nationals coming up. So it'll be real.
And I know baseball wise too. I mean, their beginning of May is their last game.
Right. So that's you forget is that you kind of base it off the high school schedule, but it's not. They're almost a month ahead, if not a half a month ahead of the high school because school's done by June. So
exactly. Yeah, because I remember being up there. It was football Y the year they won the national championship. They were kind of finishing up there when we were still on campus. So
so it's very much once we get to May, we'll be at postseason in the college ranks.
Absolutely. All right. That's your local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliances. Don't forget to check out this Brewers Sports Scene 13 every night on channel 13, WAU 13 News, or at online over there too. You guys are doing Busy time of the year.
Give me a call to come to your house and do it too.
Well, I was gonna say, if you need a call for some draft stuff, let me know. I'll hop onto my basement like you did at 120 on a Zoom.
Oh, it'd be much easier to show on than it was that day.
Yeah, I can imagine. You didn't wanna wear your Ryan Leaf jersey on camera for that one
That's
like you
right.
did with me and Brandon, so
Oh my.
probably the only 3 people in this world that have a Ryan Leaf Chargers jersey. You,
It's my
me, and
prized
Brandon.
possession.
So,
As in it's somewhere in my
just us 3 can never get rid of that jersey now.
No. Oh, no.
Never.
That thing is someday, I mean, now, even at this point, people don't even really know.
I got it at Cedar Creek Mall in Wausau. I remember getting it as a kid.
Mine was at Goodwill in Stevens Point.
Mine
was
was
my
on the clearance rack, though. It wasn't brand. It was like, oh, $15 for a brand new jersey. I don't care who it is. You know,
that was my Halloween costume. I went as Ryan Leaf and just yelled at people.
so you were an adult when you got it.
I mean, I was in college. Anybody
okay.
really an adult in college? Let's be honest.
Yeah, not really.
Definitely not this guy right here.
All right, Justice. Appreciate it, man. I know you got to get going. We're going to take a quick break here. And speaking of football, we'll get to some more draft talk coming up after these quick words. Are you looking to get your name out in the public eye more? Do you need some apparel, drinkware, signage done, whatever marketing materials you may be looking for? Resonance Branding Company has a wide range of items to help make your brand stand out from the competition. All your branding needs in one convenient place. Resonance is here to save you time, money, and headaches. And they also can set you up with an online store to help sell your items as well. So let me simply ask you, does your brand resonate? Resonance Branding Company, the official swag provider for the program and the podcast. And we got those Victory Scotch tees up over at Hy-Vee. Well, if you want a Victory Scotch tee, maybe leading up to the draft and such, go check them out. Only available at Hy-Vee. Speaking of Hy-Vee, if you love perks, we all love perks, and one of the best perks you can find in Chippewa Valley is Hy-Vee Perks. Hy-Vee Perks is a free and easy program for Hy-Vee shoppers. Access exclusive perks prices, earn discounts on gas when you purchase designated products at Hy-Vee, and save more with exclusive deals, offers, and rewards. And it's all free to join. If you're not a member yet, no worries. Just stop by Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, and you can sign up to start taking advantage of the best shopping deals in the Chippewa Valley right now with Hy-Vee and Hy-Vee perks. All right. So happy draft week for those who celebrate. Maybe you're tuning in or popping in draft day, the movie at some point leading up to it and getting ready. Maybe you're doing your own mocks and doing the mock draft simulators or trying to scour the internet, the interwebs and seeing who's picking for the Packers, what does this person have and all that stuff. I got to imagine now I shouldn't say that because there's a good chance we might get some rumors and whether it's for the sole purpose of trying to drive somebody's stock down, once in a while we've seen that, or a news story comes out that drives that person's stock down, maybe an injury update or anything like that. So, we probably could see that in the next couple days here leading up to the draft. Goody is going to be chatting with the media today for his pre-draft press conference, and we played a little game. If you haven't had a chance to chime in here, we were playing a little game. If you could ask Goody a question, or maybe a couple questions, what would they be? What would they be? So again, we know it's probably temper your expectations. If you're one that gets excited when you hear from the general manager, especially when it's 3-4 days before the draft, temper the expectations a bit, and you know, kind of be like, all right, because nothing's going to be said. He's not going to reveal anything. He's not going to tip his hand. He's not going to show his cards. A lot of it's going to be tight to the chest. So, I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't draft or read a whole lot into it or take away a lot of stuff that he says about the upcoming draft. So, Matt Schneidman, though, who covers the Packers for the Athletic, he's got his final mock draft up here. He's got the Packers trading up in the first round to grab an offensive tackle, Amarius Mims, the massive tackle out of Georgia. So moving up 4 spots to the Dolphins. A Dolphins team that, honestly, if there was a team that, might be looking to just move back a few spots to collect a couple more picks, it might be the Dolphins because they don't have a ton. They don't have a ton of picks over there. So, um, second round pick is Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. I mean, he's a guard, but he actually has spent some time playing a little tackle spot over there too, which is kind of an intriguing option over there for sure, no doubt about it. So, that's the first of the second round picks. The next second round pick, he's got Bullard, the safety from Georgia. So again, we kind of make fun, or we didn't make fun, but the last few years, Philadelphia, the Eagles were kind of known as a team that was always drafting Georgia Bulldogs. Green Bay, not that far behind when you think about it. Eric Stokes, Walker, Wyatt, and then if this falls out, there's 2 more Georgia players over there too. So actually, I'm not gonna lie, if this worked out with Schneidman's draft so far, I mean, I think, boy, these are a lot of talented players. So he's got Mims, and then he's got Beebe, Bullard, and then Austin Booker, the edge rusher from Kansas. Uh Wow, those first few picks there, that'd be a heck of a group, and then he's got Trevin Wallace, the linebacker from Kentucky for the final, 3rd round pick over there too. Hmm, interesting. Devin Leary, another Kentucky, Devin Leary, quarterback out of Kentucky. Okay, I don't know about that. Just kinda scrolling through here, so, alright, interesting. Interesting. I will reveal my Packers mock and my first round mock in a podcast later today. So, I'll do it on the air later this week, but if you want an early glimpse, I think I'm set. I think I'm finally set with my mock. If I get one right, I'll be happy. But is there a player, Packers fans listening right now, is there a player that you would bang the table for Goody to trade up and go get? Is there a player that, you know what, if you got it, we know Goody's probably not going to do that because he said it at the owners' meetings that it's a little too rich to really trade up unless there's a quarterback. But he pretty much gave the indication that he's not going to make a massive move to trade up. But if there was a player in this draft that you would be like, yeah, I would move up double digit spots, let's say, to go get that guy. Who would it be? We know it's not a quarterback, right? It's not going to be a quarterback. And I would hope that there's not any Packers fans out there yet still saying quarterback. But, maybe top 10, top 15. Is there somebody out there? Maybe Joe Alt, the tackle, probably going to be the first tackle taken off the board. Probably going to be a top 10 pick. Tackle from Notre Dame. Would it be something like that? Like, okay, now we've got, our blind side blocker for the next 10 years. Would it be one of those tackles? Like an alt, or maybe it's another tackle, the Flaga from Oregon State. Or maybe you still want them to go get another receiver. Maybe it's Marvin Harrison Jr. Or maybe it's Neighbors from LSU. Is there a player in this draft that you think that you would just love if the Packers put together a pretty sizable package and moved up and went and got? Uh honestly, for me, if I'm looking at this now, I was on record earlier in the season saying I would love me some Marvin Harrison Jr., and I still think that would be pretty juicy, pretty entertaining. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., you pair him up with Jayden Reed. I think Dontavian Wicks is gonna take a next step. He's gonna take another step over there. Watson, when he's healthy, he's really good. Romeo Dobbs, I think, is just a solid possession receiver. So, I mean, that's a ton of weaponage over there, and then you factor in the tight ends. So that would just be a selfish, like to daydream sort of thing. A realistic-ish one maybe would probably be a guy like Joe Alt, just to get that cornerstone blindside blocker there for the next 10 years. And then you don't have to worry about Jordan Love and his blindside there for a while. Other than that, I mean, I'm not seeing the corner. I mean, there's good corners, but go up there and move up in the top 10 to get one or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Not feeling it. So I know, and you can make your predictions and give me your first pick. Give me your first pick, who you think the Packers will take, regardless if they trade out of the first or trade up in the first round. Go to our website, click on that fan cave. Give me your prediction of the first player that they are going to take in the draft. Cooper DeJean, I will tell you, is the most popular pick. No big surprise, I don't think, to anybody out there that he is the most popular pick for Packers fans. He is the guy that if he's still on the board and Green Bay doesn't pick him, he will be the guy when we come on Friday morning that a lot of people are going to be very upset that Green Bay didn't get. He is that guy this year. If he's still on the board by the time Green Bay picks, or if they even trade up a few spots and he's up on that board and they don't select him, he will be the guy that a lot of people will be very upset that Goody didn't go get. We get it every year. We get it every year, maybe every couple years. There's that guy that a lot of us are enamored with, that's who we want. And then when he's there and Green Bay doesn't pick him, we get pissed. We get upset. Kind of like Derwin James, Goody's first draft when he got Jair Alexander. He traded back with New Orleans, got an extra first rounder, which that deal was just fantastic. Traded back, then he moved up a couple spots with Seattle. Derwin James is still there, and he got Jair, and people were upset the next morning that they didn't get Derwin James. They were upset. Derwin James is a really good safety. He's had some health issues too. Jair turns out is to be a pretty darn good corner too. And of course, yes, we know the whole Kevin King and TJ Watt one. That one people will never, ever, 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 ever live down from Ted Thompson's final draft. Right? That was his final draft. Yeah, final draft as a Packer general manager. RIP. No. But no, Cooper is going to be that guy that I think a lot of Packers, if he's on that board by the time Green Bay picks, Packers fans are going to be upset that they didn't grab him. So I was surprised. We actually had a couple people in our collection. So I was looking at them earlier this morning. I don't know if we got any more here, but we did have a couple people putting a defensive tackle, picking a defensive tackle to go for the Packers pick. First pick is going to go D tackle. I'd be curious to see Packers fans' reactions after that. What would their thoughts be with that? Going to a 4-3 now, right? You still got Kenny Clark, you got Devontae Wyatt. 2 first rounders there. Maybe you're kind of got a little bit of an eye to the future there. Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks had good years last year. Are they going to transition more into a 3 technique or a 5 technique on that defensive line? Maybe a little versatility there. We know the edge is going to be Rashawn, Van Ness, and Preston. So how big of a need is defense tackle going to be for the Pack in this upcoming draft? So a couple of texts to get to here. What I would ask Goody is how big, excuse me, not how big, but how confident is he in that Rasheed Walker can be the long-term starter at left tackle? It's a good question. I think that's a big question out there. I would add one more to that too, because it was one of my questions when we did this last hour, when I threw out mine. I would ask him how he would view Andre Dillard. What's the game plan for Andre Dillard this year? Because he can't be left tackle unless they feel like they can coach him up in that. But I feel like still Walker is the starter right now on the depth chart at left tackle. But is the plan for Dillard to either be a swing tackle, or are you going to focus more on right tackle for him, or perhaps even guard where he got a little work in when he was with Philly? How do they view, what position do they view Andre Dillard? And then the trickle-down effect after that. The follow-up to that would be, to go with the texter's question there. Do they truly believe Zach Tom is better suited at center? Like, that's his best position. And if that's the case, do they want to make that move now? Or is it all going to kind of depend on how the draft board falls for them? If they view Zach Tom as a, quote, Hall of Fame center, move him. But I get it. He's still really good at right tackle, and probably going to depend on who else is on your roster. As Matt LaFleur always likes to say, the 5 best will play. But I do wonder with that Dillard signing, one, it provides a little protection, gives them a little bit more depth. But that's where I would like to know if they view him more as a right tackle prospect. And if that's the case, does that mean Zach Tom's going to fully move into the center spot? And does Josh Myers transition to a guard in his final year for this year for a starter? Or is he going to be in a straight up battle with Sean Ryan? So that definitely was one of my questions. This is a draft. Like I was talking about this earlier. When I look at my Packers mock, And the thing that kinda stands out to me is, like, there's probably not a lot of, quote, "sexy picks" on here. There's not that, "Ooh, that dude is a stud wide out," or, "Oh, best tight end in the game," or, maybe even like, "Oh, that running back, oh, yeah." Like, there's not that stud, or I shouldn't say stud because 'cause they're all studs. There's not that, like, sexy, like, "Ooh, big time weapon" type of pick, and, you look at last year, it's like, okay, they went and got Musgrave and Kraft and Jaden Reed, they got some weapons to surround Jordan Love. The year prior, they got Christian Watson, right? Weapons, and I'm looking at mine right now on my tablet, and I don't know if I'd classify anybody as a weapon, and I feel like the last couple of years, they kinda did that, and now it's like, okay, maybe plug in some depth, plug in some holes here, and of course, with the change in the defense, you gotta bring in guys that are gonna be better suited for that style of defense too. All right, let's take a quick break here. We got some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room coming up. We'll wrap up the program here. Brewers taking on the Pirates. Game one of this four-game series tonight. 5:40 first pitch. We'll preview that and take a look at that. That the Brewers take another series against a division opponent. Can they sweep them in four, or at least take 3 out of 4 before they return home to face a couple of American League East teams, Yankees. I'm pumped to see the Brewers going up against the Yankees this weekend. I think that's going to be just how these two are kind of different in the offensive ways, but both really solid so far offensively. Soto's jacking some home runs for the Yankees. Brewers are maybe, situational baseball's been better offensively as of late. So I'm excited to see how those two teams match up there. But take care of business against the Pirates first. We'll take a quick break and we'll start to wrap up things here this morning. Got some picks and predicts, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. This is the time of year where we start to get a little bit more active, whether it's playing in a weekend ball tournament or doing some projects around the home or yard. Our bodies are moving a bit more. And that may also be your reminder about your achy joints, or maybe you got a little banged up rounding the bases. Whatever the case may be, you don't have to live with that pain. Just visit Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and let the team there help you get back on the field of play or back to doing some of your home projects. Whether it's a knee, shoulder, or any orthopedic issue, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine will help you live that pain free life. Just visit cvosm.com to get started. Now, I get Dr. Joe with my neck right now. Damn, you're watching, you're probably thinking, what's going on with his neck? Can I keep it there? Big Worm, Green Bay trades first round pick Texan to the Texans for picks 42 and 59. That's what I'm hoping for. Give us 2 second rounders. Do you think that's realistic? Depending on, I think it's realistic depending on which of those draft. And I don't know if you looked this up, Big Worm, or not, but depending on what draft trade charts you look at, where they assign the point system. It was the Jimmy Johnson one, right? That was kind of the first one that got things going. Now there's like different variations of it all across the board. So, I mean, if you look at it, it's very, very similar. So, like over the cap, for example, they've got the Packers' 25th pick valued at 1,369. Okay, for the Texans' 2 picks that you mentioned there, 42 and 59. 42 is valued at 1,106. And then 59 is valued at 934. So, I mean, you do the math. Yes, it could be realistic. Some are a little bit closer. I think I was looking at one during the break where it would have been like just even, absolutely even. So again, it's doable, possible. Just remember with the first round though, the extra bonus of that extra 5th year, where a lot of teams where you see them trying to trade up into the back end of that first round so they can get that 5th year option on some of those rookie deals. That's where you see. Where I almost feel like maybe a Michael Penix. If a team like the Chiefs or the 49ers trade out of the first round, back of the first round, maybe a team like the Raiders will trade up and get Michael Penix. Then they get an extra year with him too because of that 5th year option with those rookie contracts. So, let's do some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room, and shout out to the Elbow Room here. 11-year anniversary to the Elbow Room with the current ownership with Garrett over there owning the Elbow Room over there. Garrett just wanted to send a shout out to all the patrons there for how grateful he is for everybody making it 11 years over there at the Elbow Room and making just a big thank you to everybody who has made the last 11 years possible. So shout out to all of you patrons, loyal patrons to the Elbow Room and to the Elbow Room. To happy anniversary to Garrett and the Elbow Room today. So if you're looking maybe for somewhere to catch some of the games tonight, yeah, while enjoying a man cave light, you know the drill. Elbow Room right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. All right, let's do some NBA games first before we get to a little baseball picks. So we've got some playoff hoops in action tonight. Let's go Orlando at Cleveland. Cleveland took game 1 of that series. I'm going to go Cleveland again. I think Cleveland wins tonight. They're favored by 5.5. I think Cleveland wins and they take a 2-0 series. We've got Philadelphia at the Knicks. The Knicks are favored by 4.5 in this game. Boy, the wild card in this whole thing is Joel Embiid. I'm gonna take the Knicks. I'll take the Knicks. I'm not confident in it, but I'll take the Knicks. And then you got the Lakers at Denver. Denver favored by 7.5. I was surprised to hear. I know Shaq for sure, and maybe just a little bit of homerism. But did Barkley pick him too? where they picked the Lakers to beat the Nuggets in this round. Mind-boggling. Give me the Nuggets tonight to go 2-0. So I'm picking home teams again to go up 2-0 for tonight's games. Those are just the three in action. Minnesota and Milwaukee are both in action tomorrow. So even though Minnesota played on Saturday, they will play tomorrow against Phoenix, where they will look to go up 2-0. Interesting how I was looking at the early line now for this Pacers and Bucks game. So in game one, when we looked at it on Friday, Pacers were favored by 1.5. Bucks are now favored by 1.5 in this game. Weird how that all works out, huh? All right, let's do some Major League Baseball picks over here. Oh, by the way, I've mentioned this on Friday, but then I posted it on the weekend too. Give me your Stanley Cup picks. I've got my Stanley Cup picks. So before we get to a little baseball picks here, my Stanley Cup final picks going a little bit off the beaten track here, kind of, sort of. Give me the Connor, or I was going to say the Connors. Give me the fighting Connor McDavid's. I'm going to go with the Edmonton Oilers going up against the Carolina Hurricanes. You know what? Let's go with the Oilers. All right. I know everybody's got their favorites. Maybe Rangers are on there too, or whatever. But give me the fighting Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid to hoist the Stanley Cup championship this year. So that's my Stanley Cup picks there too. Let's do some baseball picks for today. We've got Chicago White Sox at Minnesota. Twinnies win. Twinnies just won 1 against the Tigers this past weekend. They're 7-13 so far, going up against the lowly, stinky White Sox. You take advantage of this, Twins. Get these wins. Twins win today against the White Sox. Let's go then with just kind of looking at some of these here. Mets at Giants. Give me the Giants. Baltimore at Los Angeles. Give me the Angels on that one. Arizona at St. Louis. I'll go St. Louis. I think they bounce back. Toronto at Kansas City could be a little spicy there. Give me Toronto on that one. And then Milwaukee at Pittsburgh. Got Joe Ross on the mound for the Brewers. You've got Jared Jones for the Pirates. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to go Pirates, pick up the win. Jared Jones, I mean, this year he's 1-2, but he's got a 3.13 ERA, 32 strikeouts. I'll go Jones and the Pirates to pick up the win. And hopefully it's just, picking against the Brewers, and they've proven me wrong a lot already this year. So that's where I'll go. Those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. And again, happy anniversary to the Elbow Room. 11 years with Garrett over there. And again, he wants to extend his thanks to all the patrons and people who have supported the Elbow Room over these past 11 years. Here's to many, many, many more. All right. So we spent a good portion talking about the Bucks with their win last night. Even without Giannis, it was Dame time in the first half, and kind of the rest of the crew in the second half there. Chris Middleton finished with over 20 points and such. So they'll be back at it again tomorrow. I got to imagine, and I think Doc Rivers and the Bucks are probably going to prepare for this, but I got to imagine that they're going to be like, okay, Pacers are just going to double team the heck out of Damian Lillard, pick him up in the full court and the half court, trap him, and literally try to force everybody else on that Bucks team to try to beat them besides Damian Lillard because the guy went off in the first half. Pacers adjusted in the second half and really tried to take him out, and he didn't score in the second half. But I got to imagine that's going to be the Pacers' game plan right from the get-go. So who's going to be that guy, that next guy? Can it be Middleton? Does he have a little bit more? Besides Middleton, is it going to be Bobby Porter? Who else? If they succeed in slowing down Damian Lillard in game 2 and just making things incredibly difficult on him, can the other guys fill that offensive void? That's the question. We'll talk more about that game, though, previewing game 2 coming up tomorrow. As we mentioned, the Brewers, they begin a 4-game series on the road against the Pirates today. Joe Ross is going to be on the mound for the Crew. Brewers are sweeping the Redbirds. First place in the division right now by 2 games over the Chicago Cubs at the current NL Central standings as they are right now. Brewers 14-6, 2 games over the Cubs, who are 13-9. Cincinnati 12-9. Pittsburgh sitting there at 500, in case anybody was wondering there. And with that sweep, the Cardinals are now 9-13 on the season, 6 games back from the Brewers for first place. Joe Ross, we'll see what he's able to provide. And, with DL Hall now on the injured list, and, he's been going out there just throwing 3 3/3, 4 innings and that. Bullpen has really been kind of, as we know, been saying it a lot, been taxed a lot. And Joe Ross go out there, it would be really ideal if he could go out there and have a game like he did against the Reds back in the 9th when he went 6 1/3 and struck out 7, picked up the win that game. But in his other starts, his first game of the season against the Twins, he went 3 2/3, and his previous one against the Padres, where he gave up 6 earned runs, just went 4 2/3. We could get that April 9th version of Joe Ross to help out the bullpen here a little bit. That'd be awesome, but maybe flip-flop. 3 2/3, 6 1/3, 4 2/3. Maybe we're due for a 6-1. Kinda going back and forth there. But not a lot of experience between these 2 pitchers in this in these lineups. I mean, Ross has gone up against McCutchen the most, which makes sense. McCutchen's 12 at-bats. He's got 1 career home run, hitting .250 against him. Reynolds, 2 at-bats, .500, and that's it. Same on the flip side. Jones going up against this Brewers lineup, so not a ton. Another right-handed pitcher, though, that the Brewers will be going up against in this lineup. So, Brian Gutekunst, we were talking a little bit about that. Had a fun game there. Surveyor Sam said what I would ask Goody with Aaron Jones gone, who is the leader of this offense. A little fun with the game that we sometimes play. If you could have one question and ask it to this person, who would it be? So a lot of you out there chiming in with your questions for Goody today. Again, I wouldn't expect a whole lot, especially from the draft side of things. I wouldn't expect him to say a whole lot, not tipping his hand, not showing his cards. I'd be curious to get the Andre Dillard question. Where does he view him, and maybe kind of get his thoughts on how important it is to maybe address linebacker in this draft. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network made a note of it the other day that if you need an off-ball linebacker, not a great year to need one of those with this draft. We think Green Bay needs one on the strong side. We think they need one over there. But does Goody necessarily think that? Especially considering that maybe that player might only play 25% of the snaps. I'd like to get his thoughts on that over there too. Oh, but we'll go over some of the comments that he had tomorrow morning if there was anything of note. Later on today, I'll be dropping my 7-round Packers mock draft on the Man Cave podcast, brought to you by Toyson Ford and Hy-Vee. So my 7-round Packers mock draft will be on there, and my first round mock draft. I think I'm okay with it. Not that it means anything, but I think this is what I'll roll with. And I'm sure it'll probably annoy a lot of people, and especially the Packers one over there. So look for that wherever you listen to your podcast, like on Apple and Spotify. And if you haven't done so already, if you could, it just takes like 10 seconds on Spotify and Apple. You can click like the 5 stars on there. Maybe leave a review on Apple. That way other people can find a podcast. That's how the algorithms work in the technology days. More positive ratings, more reviews, more it gets out there, more people find it. So if you haven't done so, do me a solid. I'd love that. If you have done it already, appreciate it. So, but that'll be coming up later today. I'm going to start to record it as soon as I shut the mics off here this morning in the next couple of minutes. Tomorrow we'll do a who didn't cut the mustard. It is also a grind my gears Tuesday. So if you got anything that's grinding your gears, let us know. Okay, think about that. Hit us up with those texts. And if you got some picks for who didn't cut the mustard, you can also let us know with that for tomorrow. So we'll talk to RJ Cardinal as well, our Badger analyst tomorrow. Get his thoughts on some of the Badgers heading into the draft this weekend. Braylon Allen, Orlini, those are probably the top two over there for the Badgers, likely to get picked. The first two Badgers likely to get picked. I still think Braylon Allen is one of the more intriguing players in this draft, considering the position that he plays and his age. All that stuff factors into it. So we'll see where he kind of lands in this upcoming draft. Still think it's going to be intriguing to see where he goes and what team he goes and how early he goes in this draft. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the players. Not just because he's a Badger, but just because, well, all the other intangibles that he brings that I'm kind of really curious to see where he goes. DP and Adanettes are up next. Have yourself a good rest of your Monday. Don't forget to check out that podcast later on today because I'm not going to tell you what my mock is until later on in the week. So if you want to know now so you can yell at me, tell me I'm an idiot, more of an idiot than I am, make sure you tune into that a little bit later on. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.